Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. And be still and know that I am God. And be still and know that I am God. God is our refuge and strength of very present help in trouble. So be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Therefore we will not fear, even though the earth be removed, and all the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. And be still and know that I am God. And be still and know that I am God. And be still and know. And be still and know that I am God.
Well, thank you, Laurie, and welcome to our Good Friday service, which we cover a metaphysical view of the 7 last words of Jesus. And of course, I'm James Trapp, most of you know, and I have Reverend Deborah Phillips who's here with me. And we heard from Laurie Shiflett, who's doing the magnificent music tonight. And we have Kathy Kilgard, who's going to be our one and only, how should I say, candlelight facilitator for tonight. And we come together this evening to pray and remember the way shower and model of our possibilities. Of course, that person is Jesus, the Christ. This is a day that we commemorate the immediate prelude to a story of victory, a story of Christ's Spirit's triumph over the most horrific of conditions. We also come together to experience a retelling of the supreme test of Jesus' life. This ancient, sacred story, of course, illustrates that we, having faith in God, can rise above all earthly limitations to attain the fullness of spiritual life.
We light this candle to symbolize the everlasting light that shines within us, the Christ light that clears away all darkness.
We know that there is that scriptural reference that was in that song that be still and know that I am God. And we can take those words and affirm them for ourselves, for we are an expression and extension of this God presence. And this God presence that is within each and every one of us is known as the Christ. This is also known as the Buddhic field or the Atman presence, the Shekinah of the soul. And this evening we are reminded that this is a presence that can never be hurt, harmed, or endangered in any way, even though on the outside we have so much going on. We have our challenges, we have our setbacks, we have our own individual and collective crucifixions. But remember that we are here to realize that this presence that is within, around each and every one of us is far more powerful than any of the circumstances that we face. So we're grateful that we can be the vessels and the vehicles to demonstrate and re-demonstrate the power and the presence of God that was in Master Teacher Jesus and is also within us. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Well, way back at Christmas, we celebrated the birth of Jesus of Nazareth and discovered the metaphysical meaning of his birth. Discovered his rising consciousness, the so-called lost years where he traveled and studied, and then his return to begin his ministry. As we come into this story today, this Good Friday, as it is called, Jesus is under a death sentence and hangs on a cross between two thieves. And we may wonder, how did it come to this? So before we enter that metaphysical implication of Jesus' last hours on earth, we want to consider what transpired during the 3 years that we don't know much about him. Certainly many good things came about during those years. There were miracles and healings, turning water into wine, and many wonderful teachings. Teachings like the Sermon on the Mount that were very high consciousness moments we prefer to focus on. But there were other moments. Jesus openly defied Jewish authority. He openly challenged the Pharisees when he declared that what comes out of the mouth is more important than what goes into the mouth. A direct attack on the ancient dietary laws. He was admonished for healing people on the Sabbath, but he did not stop. There are 7 instances of Jesus healing on the Sabbath. He charged through the temple courtyard and he overturned the money changers' tables. And then to top it off, he rode into Jerusalem as King Solomon had, with people waving palm fronds and proclaiming him King of the Jews. The truth is that Jesus was always needling authority. His message was one of compassion and love. His message was one of forgiveness and understanding. And it was this very teaching that required him to push back at the limited traditional thinking of the Pharisees. Looking at this dynamic, we can see that Jesus had constant pressure to stray from his spiritual path. Certainly would have made his life so much easier if he simply played by the rules. But he chose again and again to follow his innate spiritual guidance. He chose to continue making drastic comments and observations, take actions that defied religious law, to push for higher and higher consciousness among his followers. But for most of these 3 years, Jesus' life was not in danger. And at the time, one might very well say, sure, he can get away with this because there was no consequence. And so the question might be, what would Jesus really do when it came down to life and death? Would his teachings hold? Would he fulfill the purpose for which he was born? The tension between Jesus and the Pharisees had been rising for some time, and he intentionally agitated them by riding in Jerusalem as had King Solomon, letting people proclaim him King of the Jews. He knew this would push things way beyond their comfort zone, and there would be pushback. But he held his ground. He stood in truth. He had many opportunities to dodge this experience and disappear. The disciples even encouraged him to do so. He had one last meal with his disciples, gave them a final teaching, and went out to pray. It's not that he was without moments of doubt. We recall that poignant moment in the garden the night before his arrest. He prayed for this cup to pass him by. But he stayed, was arrested. He could have recanted to Pilate or Herod, but he refused to engage them. He had another opportunity on the cross, but again, he let it pass. As we find him on the cross today, he is in pain, hungry, dehydrated, dirty, and still teaching. When we examine the last 7 statements that Jesus made on the cross, we find that they embody his entire message.
Metaphysically, we do not view the crucifixion of Jesus as a tragedy, but as a step toward a great victory. Jesus assured us that the same victory that illustrated his story can be attained by us. During his crucifixion experience, Jesus gave us 7 statements. And these statements are scattered among the 4 Gospels. Each of the 7 statements made by Jesus may be considered as a continuation of his teachings, which are especially appropriate for us today. Jesus used a unique form of condensed metaphysical teaching, almost a kind of verbal shorthand, but for those with eyes to see and ears to hear, there is significant spiritual meaning. The crucifixion itself symbolizes a process of crossing out or eliminating that which is no longer needful for our continued unfoldment. What has fulfilled its purpose in us must either be lifted to a higher level of expression in consciousness or released completely. Jesus' crucifixion illustrates both of these meanings. The 7 statements by Jesus from the cross verbalize 7 great realizations of truth, which are necessary for our continued spiritual growth and unfoldment.
Well, before proceeding with our experience this evening of the 7 last words, we're wanting to continue on and maintain the energy of this inward experience of contemplation. So we're going to do our offertory right now so as to not to interrupt that. So we invite you at this time to support Spiritual Life Center with your gift or offering, or if you've already given already, just know that you're in the flow of a consciousness of abundance. And for those who may be online that are observing this service this evening, if you'd like to support Spiritual Life Center with your gift or offering, you have the opportunity to do so by texting SLC Love to 44321. That's SLC Love to 44321. Or go to our website, slcworld.org, go to the Donate tab, and you can give in other ways, including sending a check by mail. And every supportive offering or gift is highly appreciated. And with that, let's affirm our offertory blessing together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
Indeed, we are so blessed. And we may forget that sometimes, so we come here to be reminded of this truth. As we delve into the 7 last words, let's start with the very first, forgiveness. And Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Inner forgiveness is the mightiest of spiritual acts. Without it, nothing in the nature of real spiritual progress can be achieved. Jesus made this the first of his 7 statements because of its primary importance. It is significant that he does not claim to be doing the forgiving. He acknowledges God as the only forgiving power. Human beings would be wise to do the same. We should try to realize that it really is not my forgiveness or your forgiveness, but is the forgiving love of God. In fact, we can say the presence, the power, and the love of God is never in a state of unforgiveness. Because nothing we can do can stop God from loving us, supporting us, and uplifting us. At best, we can frustrate this presence, but we cannot stop it. It makes it much easier to forgive when we realize that it is not something personal, which I must cook up for myself. All I do is consent. I consent to let the loving power of God simply be directed through me in behalf of others who need such forgiveness. For they know not what they do. If people knew, really knew what they were doing when doing something wrong, they simply would not go through with it. Behind all offenses, there's a lack of understanding, spiritual understanding. Even a person who thinks he or she knows that he or she is doing when he or she harms another, actually does not know. Thus, on Friday morning, when at the 3rd hour, 3 crosses were raised on Golgotha, and Jesus was placed on the middle cross with a thief on either side of him, he was able to look down at his tormentors and sincerely say, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. I hear you pray for those who torture you. These are the words that tear my grudges all apart. Create in me a tender heart.
As we hear these first words of Jesus from the cross, we say, "Loving God, we bless those who persecute us." In doing so, the Christ Spirit cleanses us of the injustices we have committed and those that have been committed toward us. To those we have offended, we ask for forgiveness. To those who have hurt us, we offer forgiveness. We take in this affirmation, "I freely forgive and am forgiven through the Christ that dwells within me." I invite you to quietly affirm this to yourself as we feel the cleansing action of the Christ forgiveness in us all. Take in these words, "I freely forgive and am forgiven through the Christ that dwells within me." In the silence.
Today, you will be with me in paradise. What is paradise? Where is it? Jesus knew, and he told us about it many times. Paradise is a name given to the here and now consciousness of oneness with God. Where is oneness with God? It is here. When is oneness with God? It is now. Jesus spoke these words to one of the thieves being crucified with him. Charles Fillmore wrote that these 2 thieves symbolize the past and the future. Memories of the past rob us. Anxiety about the future robs us. But spiritual awareness, or Jesus, never robs us. Rather, it gives us strength and protection. What does spiritual awareness in us say about our past or future? Does it tell us to fear it? Does it urge us to protect ourselves from it? No. Spiritual awareness says to us, "Today you will be with me in paradise." In other words, spiritual awareness says we can bring our concerns into our here and now consciousness of oneness with God. We need not project into the past or the future, but rather bring all thoughts into paradise. Paradise is our oneness with God. It is here. It is now. It is forever. As the day progressed, one of the thieves railed at Jesus, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other thief rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we are condemned justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." And he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus spoke, saying, "Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise."
You turn your head to address a dying thief. Today you'll be in paradise with me. These are the words where every hopeless soul must start. Create in me a trusting heart.
To that quiet place within, we carry with us the knowledge that whenever we turn to the Christ of our being and ask for help, it is always freely given. And let us reflect and take in this affirmation. In faith, I turn to the Christ within and know that this day and every day I am one with my good, one with my God. And take a breath. And bring this into your heart. In faith, I turn to the Christ within and know that this day and every day I am one with my good, one with my God.
Woman, behold your son. Behold your mother. These words were spoken to Mary, and according to tradition, to the disciple John. Mary and John were not mother and son, but Jesus was speaking from a level of highest understanding concerning the truth of human relationships. One of the greatest realizations that come to a person is the realization of his true relationship to every other human being in the human family. Whatever biological ties may exist, the metaphysical ties are stronger and more important. In spirit, we are each other's mother, brother, and sister. To realize this and to accept this will guarantee great steps forward in spiritual unfoldment. Jesus saw his mother and said to her, "Woman, behold your son." Looking at John, he said, "Son, behold your mother." And from that hour, John took Mary as his own.
Then unto Mary, woman, behold your son. Behold your mother, your dying words to John. These are the words, begin a family of which I'm a part. Create in me a holy heart. These are the words, begin a family of which I am a part. Create in me a holy heart.
We are reminded by this third statement that it is our responsibility to provide for those who are unable to care for themselves. We fulfill our human responsibilities willingly and with great love. And with that understanding and realization, let us embody and feel these words from this affirmation. As I unfold spiritually, I fulfill my every obligation responsibly, wisely, and lovingly. I'll repeat it one more time and then invite you to quietly affirm it to yourself as I do. As I unfold spiritually, I fulfill my every obligation responsibly, wisely, and lovingly. Let us reflect upon that in the silence.
My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Jesus once again teaches by making himself an example. Notice that this is a question, not a statement. Jesus was probably not asking that question for his own sake because he knew the real answer. He knew truth. He spoke the question to show us what is often in our own hearts as we seek to follow him. The question sparks a wondering in us, why am I feeling separated from God? Even when we know better, this feeling may creep over us. This teaching shows us that asking why is okay. It is normal and it is healthy. And when the 6th hour had come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. And Jesus cried with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Your darkest hour, you cried out from a tree. My God, why have you forsaken me? These words of anguish pierced me through just like a dart, creating me a thankful heart, creating
when we experience spiritual crucifixion, we may feel as Jesus did when he uttered those words. Even then, even God seems to have forsaken us. In these periods of darkness, Christ's Spirit within gives us the strength to persevere. God is here even in our darkest, most painful and confusing moments. And let us take this affirmation into our hearts. God's love comforts me. God's power strengthens me in my hour of need. And take a breath and bring it in. God's love comforts me. God's power strengthens me in my hour of need.
I thirst. This is an affirmation of a need. It is an asking. The asking is immediately followed by the meeting of that need. Jesus was given a sponge soaked with a mixture of vinegar and gall or myrrh, a soothing drink. Jesus had previously taught, ask, and you will receive. Here he gives an example of practicing what he preached. There are times when a person finds him or herself in a situation where things look hopeless. During such times, they will feel an overpowering thirsting after righteousness. What should one then do? Jesus said, ask and you will receive. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. With God, no situation is hopeless, for God is mightier than circumstances. After this, Jesus, knowing that all was completely said, he spoke in words, I thirst.
You said I thirst, yet it was not for wine. You thirst for love from desert souls like mine. And with these words a flowing river, you impart, create in me a loving heart. Create in me a loving heart.
There comes a time in spiritual unfoldment when we finally know that the body is not limited to the physical. It is the temple of the living God, and its full needs can only be met by drinking of the living water, the life of Christ. We'll once again return to the silence as we quietly affirm and embody these words. I drink of the living water of spirit, and every need of my mind and body is fulfilled. Embody these words. I drink of the living water of spirit, and every need of my mind and body is fulfilled. Let's contemplate those words in the silence.
It is finished. Everything that happens in a person's life is part of the cycle of learning, growing, and unfolding. Each event, each experience, each relationship, each victory, each defeat is a factor in the great overall pattern of evolution. Though difficult, the highest thing we can do is recognize when something has fulfilled its role in our life and is now finished business. Some people never learn to recognize when something is finished. This pertains to other persons, possessions, jobs, pleasures, just about anything. But it especially pertains to cycles of experience in our life process. Certain difficult or painful experiences will revisit us until we become aware that something in our consciousness is calling them in. But then awareness dawns, and we say, as Jesus did, it is finished, holding no grudges, nursing no hurt feelings, carrying no unhappy memories. If it is finished, let it go. The work is done. Greater good is now in store, and we let the past bury the past. It is finished. When Jesus had received drink, he uttered his sixth statement. It is finished.
Then it is finished. Your work on earth was done. For in 3 days your battle would be won. your works of art, create in me, create in me, create in me a perfect heart.
When we come to the limit of human effort and know that we have done all we can do, we keep our faith and know that with God all things are possible. We have done all we can humanly do, and we totally surrender our will to God. And let us take this affirmation into our hearts. The living, loving Christ of my being works for my highest good in all matters that I release to it. I let go. I let God. And take that breath into your heart and bring this in. The living, loving Christ of my being works for my highest good in all matters that I release to it. I let go. I let God.
Abba, into thy hands I commit my spirit. In the beginning, God. In every ending, God. God is our all in all. Jesus had gone through a complete cycle in which he had accomplished exactly what he had come here to do. He had brought that cycle to a climax in the symbolism of the drama of the crucifixion. The word he chooses to verbalize that climax are in the statement, which is the apotheosis. Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit. People often wonder, what is going to happen to me next? If we will follow the example of Jesus, we can know that we can safely place ourselves, our lives, our bodies, our future in God's hands. We're not taking any risks when we do this. God is completely dependable because God cannot be changed. When Jesus gives us his example of commending his whole spirit into God's hands, he is once again demonstrating his own teachings. God is the answer to everything. God is the meaning behind everything. God is the only fate in store for his children, and God is absolute good. There was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. While the sun's light failed and the curtain of the temple was torn into two. Then Jesus, crying with a loud voice, said, Abba, into your hands I commit my spirit. And having said this, he breathed his last breath.
Into your hands, Father, I commend my breath, your final prayer as you close your eyes in death. And with these words, one day I'll fly to where you are, creating me, creating me, creating me a faithful heart.
As Jesus spoke the seventh statement, he surrendered his spirit. Not my will, but yours be done. Into the care and keeping of God, I give myself and all that concerns me. I rest from my labors and let God's will for good come forth in my life. Let us once again return to the silence with this thought, with this affirmation. Take that into your entire being. These words: I release and let go of my concerns. God's will be done in me now. I release and let go of my concerns. God's will be done in me now. Let us embody that in the silence.
Christ has no body now but yours. No hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks, compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet, yours are the eyes. You are his body. has nobody now but yours. He's got no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks, compassion on this world. Oh, Christ has nobody now on earth but yours. Christ has nobody now on earth but yours. Christ has nobody now on earth but yours. But
We've traveled with Jesus through his 7 last words, leading up to the crucifixion experience. And at that point, he surrendered all. You know, in our own lives and in our world, we have our own personal and collective crucifixions. And we have some way in which to navigate them based upon the teachings of the Master Jesus. Yet we know that as we have our own personal or collective crucifixions, we don't want to stay there. And we know that we don't ever want to go through a crucifixion unless there's a resurrection. And so we look forward to the resurrection. So I invite you to come here on Sunday to get the rest of the story. Peace and blessings to you. Go in peace.
Christ has nobody now but yours. He's got no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks, compassion on this world. Your Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. And yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet, yours are the eyes, you are his body. And Christ has no body now but yours. He's got no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks, compassion on this world.